I'm super curious about your journey. Can you tell a little bit about yourself? Like, how did you get started with trading?
Yeah, so I obviously when I was younger went to university and never heard of like trading or anything like that. I just knew about investing when I was younger and done quite a lot of investing and was not too bad at it, but it was only when I like was doing my university project that I come across like Elliott wave theory because my like project at university was to do like wave forces on cylinder structures. So I come across like Elliott wave theory from there, and I wasn't really enjoying uni too much. So come across that, and I was like, okay, and got really distracted. And from there, just have been trading really ever since, to be honest.
Do
Went
you
from so many different strategies, and yeah, pretty much that's it.
Nice. Do you still trade like that? Because I did see your results. Your track record is good. You're putting in a lot of work. We can see that. Do you still trade Elliot or?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
Like I would say 95% just pure automation because back in the manual trading days, I was getting up. It was ruining my health in terms of like getting up at every hour because when you've back tested a strategy manually, if you want to
I
like
know.
exploit the edge, you've got to trade 24/7. And if that meant like setting alarms at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, I was doing it just to execute that edge. And I got good amount of success from it, but I was getting like no sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. So you started manually. For how many years did you do that?
So I think manually I'd done like 4 years, and to begin with was not very good. Go through like all the mistakes that typical traders make. But one thing that I did always have in the back of my mind was risk management from coming from like a investing background from from the early ages, the early years. So I never really blew an account as such, but I wasn't exactly getting consistent results in that first 2 years as such. It was only when I come across like I was looking for like more mechanical style like trading, and I came across actually your community from probably like maybe like 4 years ago, and
Odell.
added added the new capital strategy as one of my strategies that I traded live.
Do you still trade that manually, or do you just think like too much work? I just want to automate everything.
I've just pretty much automated everything. I still keep track of it in the background because it's still still interesting to see if your manual strategies are holding up. And, you know, looking at it, it is. It's just I don't want to I don't want to like put a burden on like, I've got to go check the charts every like 4 hours as such anymore.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's a lot of people are like stuck to their strategy or like a slave of their strategy. That's what
Yeah,
I figured out a long time ago. And then you try to tweak it to fit your routine, but life gets busy, right? That's
absolutely.
I got
Yeah.
it. So right now, what's your status? Like, you're getting funded, you're looking for more capital. What's like your approach, or what are you doing?
Yeah, so I've got my I've got lots of things in different baskets as in I trade with on Darwin X and have got I think about 600K plus on that. I trade with FTMO, and then I've got other outsourcings that like I've managed to raise capital, and as it is right now I'm trading 7 figures. So
Nice.
pretty much do
Congrats.
this full time. Still have like a I'm because I went from like full-time work and I've gradually been moving out the business. So now I'm like 2, 3 days a week. And again, next year I'll look to reduce it to the point where I'm just full-time trading because I think it's like once you get to the stage of you've got capital, like I don't want to put that additional stress on me that might like interrupt my processes. So gradually going to start moving out of that. And when I feel like it's ready, then I'll go full-time.
Okay, and do you have like a goal for yourself or a timeline, or just are you just checking out like how things grow? Because yeah, you have no idea how quickly your assets under management grow, right?
Yeah, it's in the past like year, it's grown dramatically. So I am thinking about it very soon. But we'll see how it goes, I want to keep raising more and more and more. And then once I've got like I've got like a set amount that like if I made like X, then I can go full time, and I'm just trying to like save in the background so then I've got myself like a buffer. Because at the moment I just want to grow my capital, I'm not going to eat into all the profits just to live, if that makes sense. Yeah,
Does make sense. Like one advantage, of course, is that all your trading is automated, so
yeah.
you can. Would you say it's possible to do a full-time job still and also pursue this?
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's one of the only reasons that like I still kind of work part-time because all my systems just work in the background. I've got like on my phone like Microsoft remote desktop that if I need to check anything, I can at any point, which is such a luxury. So it means that like, even during the week, let's say it's a nice day, I'll go out and play golf. As long as I'm connected to the internet and have like that available to me, I'm not too worried whatsoever. And you can set notifications for when trades actually happen. So you can keep yourself up to date at any point in your time as long as you've got an internet connection.
Yeah, that's true. So paint the picture. Like, how does your day look? Like, you wake up, you check your MetaTrader for trades, or your servers. How does it look like?
Yeah, so when I wake up, I will check to see, okay, what is the market doing? How is my like strategies reacted to whatever's happened over the Asia session? Because obviously I live in Scotland here, so we can't actively track what's going on in Asia. So I'll see if there's any trades, if there's anything that, like my algorithms have missed that I could potentially take advantage of, study the price action that's happened over Asia. And then what I would do after that is potentially, depending on the day of the week, go through like a brainstorming, write down different strategies that I want to build this week. And
Hmm.
then what I would do is like on the Tuesday, I would start building them. Wednesday, I would test them. And then on Thursday, if it meets the criteria, like most of the strategies I'll test will be straight in the bin for most parts, because at the end of the day, we've got that luxury where we can build as many strategies as possible. So on the Thursday, I would then look, okay, what one's done well this week, and then spend Thursday, Friday building on them.
Okay. Okay. So, what do you think? Like, how many strategies do you develop every week or month? Do you have like a routine for that?
I mean, it really depends on how complex the strategy is that we're trying to build. Basic strategies, I don't know how many you could really push.
Yeah.
I would even say like 100 in a day if you really want to. You can really build fast if you really want to. But I aim to at least do like 10 strategies a week that like have been really like looked at, tested everything on like everything possible that I want to trade.
Damn. Yeah, that's cool, right? The edge is not in like your trading strategy, it's the speed of developing the strategies and then
Absolutely.
finding the good one. Yeah, that's what we teach and preach, of course.
Yeah, it is.
But just to see how people execute on that, like pushing a lot of volume and seeing, okay, what works and what sticks, that's like where the goal is because everyone wants to find that good strategy, but you
Yeah,
need to put in a little bit of work to get there, right? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I feel like we're in a unique time as in so many people are still manually trading and there's so much information out there on the internet that you can really take advantage of right now.
Yeah, definitely. So regarding building strategies, why do you have very good results already? Why are you developing a lot more strategies? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we always know the market could change at any point. We don't really know what's going to happen next. So I keep wanting to develop more strategies, not only just because different approaches work and you can keep adding or removing strategies as time goes on to a portfolio, but also like exploring different types of markets as well. You can have your bread and butter, which I would say for us is like Forex, but branching out into other areas for diversification is quite key long term. All the best traders in the world have some of them have really went into like that diversification sort of like portfolio. And at the end of the day, it's better to have say 1,000 strategies that work and can replace at any point in time when one's underperforming than just having one strategy that stops working and then you can totally collapse.
Yeah. Yeah, true. And do you think is it more stressful then to be an algo trader compared to a manual trader, or do you find it like pretty nice that you have multiple strategies and not rely on one, or how do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, I think both have their own like different like sort of stress levels in terms of like trading manually. You've got to do everything yourself. If you're going through like a drawdown, like mentally, it's a lot more challenging if you're manually trading because you're actively managing positions. Where algo trading, once you've decided that, yep, that's what I'm going to go with live, you just have to accept that you're going to have to go hands off, let it do its thing, which I think was the hardest thing for me when I first started. But for algo trade, I think the the frustrating thing comes from when you're constantly building. You could have a week of building and you've not got anything that's you would classify as good enough to trade. So you kind of feel like, no, I've not achieved something this week, but in reality, you actually have because you've tested so many strategies.
Yeah, true. Sometimes it's overwhelming, maybe that you're testing a lot of things and then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, it's like there are manual traders trying to become consistently profitable for 4 or 5 years, and they're
Mm.
still not there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So did algo trading, or well, we built the algorithms without writing code, but did this like more mechanical way of trading boost your returns compared to manual, or what was the effect really in your life and how you feel about your trading?
Yeah, I mean, when I was manually trading at the latter part, I was mechanically trading it. So I would say based on having a mechanical approach definitely boosts your trading because you can be very consistent with it. Algo trading just takes it that step further. You can exploit so many edges mechanically that you wouldn't be able to do manually, and it gets rid of all the discretion. If you're trading live markets, I feel like if you're trading discretion, you really have to put a lot of time behind the screen to really understand what's going on. And again, that's just based on your opinion that if you flip a coin so many times, it's not gonna work out the same way as mechanical trading is, where your kind of exact edge numbers over like a large sample size, you know what to expect roughly. Where like if you're doing manual trading with discretion, it's kind of just okay. Let's see what goes on here.
Yeah, true. Uh, Personally, I do find a lot of I find trading way more fun, but also easier because we have that data to back it up that something
Yeah,
works. Of course, I know also, like you said at the start, backtesting manually was part of the game, and you learn a lot from it. But still, it takes so much time to do, and still
yeah,
back in your head somewhere, you know that you're maybe tweaking your strategy while backtesting. Like I took this trade, or I should have, or I didn't take this trade due to this and this. But if it then live develops in the markets, a lot of people are want success so bad that they still take that trade, right? Because
yeah,
the fear of missing out on a good trade, they find it more difficult and more of an issue than skipping a bad trade. If that makes
yeah,
sense. You
yeah,
also said that you it took a little bit of time to get comfortable with automatic trading, like just outsourcing your trading to the system you created.
yeah,
Even though you built it yourself and you tested it over maybe thousands of trades or maybe more and many years of data, and we have a very strict approach to see what's a valid strategy and not. How did you overcome that obstacle to accept that you are not in control?
it was just time, to be honest. Time and realizing that anytime I intervened and like let's say got out of position early, I was wrong pretty much every single time. It's crazy. Like I ran it like my back test like when I first went, like I let it go live and then obviously I was manually closing when I was like, okay, I'm up to like 4R. I'm quite happy with that right now. Even though my target's at like say could be 6 or 7R, 9 times out of 10 it would end up going to that and I'd lose out in percentage, which in the long term totally screws up your odds and can totally make a difference to your back test in terms of like drawdowns, your expectation and like returns. So really intervening, I realized quite quickly, does not help at all. Even if you think, okay, price is starting to like slow up, starting to fade, I think it's going to drop. You just don't know what's going to happen next. A bit of news can come out and it can send anything flying, and you're out of that, and you didn't capture that extra bit of the move.
Yeah, true. It reminds me of like back in the days with one of our key strategies, like the pie system.
Yeah,
Um, you have day pretty often you have like plus 10 R days or plus 20 R days sometimes happen. I believe the biggest day I ever had was like plus 30 R or something, and the whole market was crashing.
yeah,
And then at the end of that crash, you sell, the system starts selling, and then you're like, why the hell do we go short now after we have like a crazy move already in the markets?
yeah,
And then all the yeah the market still tanks, right? And you bank still that extra 10R. And
yeah,
if you close it down early, like back in the days with that system, because it's high risk to reward, I also felt like, okay, we already are 10R up, right? Shouldn't we close like the new trades because they probably are not making that extra distance as well?
yeah,
But if you then close and they do bank, like if you miss 10R or 20R, that can really be a huge sum regarding your statistics, right?
yeah, exactly.
Especially if you have a losing streak of 10 trades in a row, and then you should have banked 20R later, you should be up 10R, right? And that's crazy good results. But if you closed it at 10, then you're back at break even. That's
Yeah.
like the big,
And it gets
yeah,
really frustrating when that happens because you just hate yourself because you've closed out early, you know?
yeah. But there are also a lot of people and scenarios that are not like yours, that they do close early and then it worked out.
Yeah. I've closed multiple, like, and at the start, I've closed multiple early just because I was happy with the return, like,
Yeah.
at that current day. Also, basically exactly what you've said. I've done that before as well. We've had like a massive up day where, like, say, dollar yen's up like 2% already, and it's still taking buys. And I'm like, nah, surely the edge it's not here. It's not here. And then, keeps going. It just some days, I think and then you start to realize that like those sort of days are the days where you're going to bank huge amounts when price is so explosive for your trading breakouts, and it
Hmm.
can make a big portion of your returns for like the month, the quarter, or even the year, depending on like what the market conditions are. So it can really hurt you long term.
Yeah. Cool. So can you shine a little light on how your portfolio looks right now? What type of strategies and
Yeah, so I've got a portfolio on Darwin X that I trade 18 different breakout strategies. I've purely focused on breakouts to begin with. I'm building other portfolios in the background, but mainly I focus on breakouts. And the breakouts, at the end of the day, depending on what markets you're trading, you can test anything. Like there is so many different breakout systems that are like uncorrelated to each other as well when you put it back into like quant analyzer, which to me, when I first started, I was like, I don't believe it. Like surely if you're building a breakout system on say gold and you're building another one, they would be correlated. And there is parts of time where they are correlated, but for the most part, they aren't, depending on what time frame, how you're trading it as well. So building a portfolio just on breakouts, even on a single pair, you can build diversification. And that's essentially what I've done with each pair that I trade. I've got about four strategies on each pair. Trade them like really low risk, just so then like my drawdown's not too big. So yeah, that's essentially the essence of my portfolio on Darwin X, which is IME.
yeah. Cool. So why breakouts first of all? A lot of questions here. Why do you focus on breakouts?
I focus on breakouts just because, we know that price, if you listen to some of the best traders, the trend is your friend. So I'm more looking to get in with the trend, but what I want to do is trade breakouts because that's when the volume comes into the market. And I want to take advantage of that volume. So it's so much easier to do breakouts because you can test so many different variables. There's so many different methods of breakouts that I just found it like the easiest way to start building because there's so many different things you can build.
Fair enough. Yeah, the back in the days with the way of the turtle, that book of the turtle traders, we probably all know.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know what the exact quote is, but in my head, I maybe I changed the quote, but it's like if you want to catch every trend, you just need to take every breakout,
yeah,
and you will catch also false breakouts. That happens, but if your edge is big enough and you do have a large risk to reward, or maybe a trailing stop loss that you have big trades when the trend happens, which always comes, then you bank a lot. Is that also a philosophy you have?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Which is also a reason why like I risk quite low because at the end of the day, when it does trend, even if you're risking low, you're catching some massive waves. And if you're taking multiple trades within that massive wave, you're making so much R,
Yeah.
depending on what system it is.
Regarding management, if you say like on average like four different breakout strategies per
Yeah.
pair, are those strategies multi-time frame, and also do they have multiple management styles?
Yeah, so I think most of the pairs trade in a different time frame for each breakout, and that's what creates the uncorrelation. And what I like to do is I like to split the risk on each strategy and manage it slightly different. So what I want to do, just to make sure that like sometimes you've got an intraday play, that the trends within the intraday, and other times you're looking to trend with a long-term trend. So that's where I have different management for kind of each individual strategy, and it's broken down into two. So I'll look at different, management like stop losses and all that for taking advantage of the intraday move, but also I want to be in the long-term trend. So it just totally depends on what pair it is as well.
Okay, so can you shine a little bit more on like the secret management styles you use?
I mean, to be honest, it's they're not really secret as such. I'll just use basics like, using swing high, swing lows, using ATR stop losses, percentages, and then for like management, again, could be percentage based trailing as well as swing high, swing lows. At the end of the day, all of them go for like bigger targets.
Hmm.
Um, because at the end of the day, we want to capture that huge move. So, management is quite tight when, things aren't like trending as such. So like you're getting in and out of trades for like small wins, small losses. But when things are like moving, it's really capturing those big moves.
Yeah, but that's difficult, right? How can you give a strategy or a trade room enough to move, but still also have tight management when you're wrong?
Yeah, and I think that's where like having the different like management styles of one going for like intraday moves, so like you'll capture small moves, and
Mhm.
one going for like a bigger move. So like you could get like a day where like, euro dollar moves 1%, you've made like 5R using your like tight management. It could then completely reverse, which is very typical. And the one that I've got like the bigger management, I want the bigger wave will be taken out. But overall, I'll be net like a profit.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Cool. So are you now looking for still more breakout strategies because that's definitely working for you based on your results?
Yeah.
Uh, do you want to have more of those, or are you thinking like maybe I should go for more like reversal setups or when markets range?
So for me, like I'm happy like trading breakouts, but I'm looking to diversify into different markets first and foremost.
Mhm.
I think once like I'd say once I'm stretched in how many strategies I can test, because I think there's still like a long way before I run out of strategies to test. I don't think
Yeah.
that'll ever happen, to be honest. But I've looked at pullback strategies, I've looked at mean reversion strategies, and I find that most mean reversion strategies are quite difficult to build, depending on what you're trading. And at the end of the day, like we know that things trend, so that's why I just love doing breakouts, to be honest, because the methodologies meets sort of my personality of how I trade.
Okay, cool. So the last thing on strategies then, where do you get strategies from? What is more or less your research approach? Yeah, just YouTube? Is it research papers? Is it books? Everything? Communities?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many places that you can go searching. One of the things that you've shared a couple within your community that are very helpful. But YouTube, you can get some strategies from there, although a lot harder, I will say, because you've got a lot of the fake gurus that are on there that there's
Yeah,
nothing
the
great
crap.
there. There's nothing great there. But research papers especially, like you can find some really good stuff on research papers, and as well as just reading as many books as you can from traders that are that are, got a real good track record that have brought out books. So you've got a ton
Yeah.
out there that you can really utilize and take advantage of. That's why I'm saying like we're quite lucky how fast we can build systems now. and really take advantage of just the research that we do and then put it into strategies very quickly.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think it's very helpful for people to know that there are so many strategies to develop. I think a lot of people might be scared, like, okay, cool, I can maybe learn this skill to automate strategies and build that.
Yeah.
And you can learn it pretty quickly. But yeah, what do I automate, right? What is a good strategy? How do I find it? And then seeing like someone like you just having too many ideas to even build it, right? That's good to
Yeah.
know.
I think like it gets to a point where you've got that like I have a lot of strategies that I just don't trade live that just sit there on like demo accounts, just sitting there because they are profitable, but it's like, is it worth bringing it into the portfolio? And that's a totally different, rabbit hole that you can go down.
Yeah.
Once you get to that stage, like there is so much you can do. You can pull strategies, you can replace strategies, and different ways of concepts of building portfolios. But I can tell you, you'll never run out of strategies, and you'll find quite a lot of good strategies just by sheer mass volume of testing. Don't get attached to one idea. At the
No.
end of the day, there's so many out there that if it doesn't work, you can come back to it at a later date, just move on to the next one until you've got enough. Then you can go revisit some of the ones you're like, okay, you've grown as a trader, you see different things, you want to test different ideas because, constant research and reading, you're going to get new ideas all the time that you then could apply to a strategy that you've tested in the past that didn't work with your like things you were testing then, and then it might work at a different stage.
Cool. So with your strategy development, then what is your process regarding going from an ID, building the ID, testing the ID, like we always teach, and then you run it forward, like you run it on a small live account, and then you scale.
Yeah.
When do you scale? What is like the whole process from just that people know, like from ID to where you are right now with your portfolio?
Yeah, so, in the initial stage, because it's breakouts, if you want to do like a one-to-one risk to reward and make sure it's got over that 50% win rate or a little bit profitable to make sure that there is an edge even in the one-to-ones. And you'll get ones that are like not like basically one-to-one, but when you go 1 to 5, like the edge is crazy. You'll get other ones that are like 1 to 1, you move it up a little bit more and there's not so much of an edge. So again, like you'll move from that point, testing different stop losses, testing different take profits. Then what you can do after that point is obviously put it into like Quant Analyzer, which we use. And then the way that I go forward testing, if I'm happy with the results, happy with the Monte Carlo sort of analysis, I will then look at the stagnation period and the max drawdown. If the stagnation period is like 100 days, I will run that strategy for 100 days in a forward test. As long as it doesn't meet the max drawdown and it actually like replicates the results to some extent, that's when
Mhm.
I would then look at putting it at a live account.
So that's 100 days. Like for some people, that's whoa. Do I need to wait 100 days until I turn on a system? Um, do you find like that you are waiting a long period of time before you risk real money, or
Uh, Not too much. It really depends on the system, Like I say like 100 days, but obviously let's say the results are doing really well before that 100 days. It's like sorry, the 100 days is let's say the system's underperforming after the 100 days, which is the max stagnation. If it goes more than the max stagnation, I'll then cut it. If it goes more than the max drawdown, I'll then cut it. But if it's
yeah.
doing well and the back tests are meeting the forward test results, I then can put it forward like into live money very quickly and put it on like say a smaller account and then grow it from there. There like it depends on the strategy, I would say. If you're working with say a bigger stop loss strategy, it's gonna probably take a lot longer for that stagnation period, but the results will be a lot more, I would say, reliable because you're giving it a lot of room to breathe. Where like if you're working with say smaller stop losses, that's where I would really put it onto that like maximum stress test going forward.
Why? Why?
Just because sometimes I found that the strategies with the smaller stop losses, at the end of the day, like you can get, depending on broker, slippage, spreads, lots of different variables can happen when you're trading lower time frames, lower stop loss, smaller stop losses. And I find that that's where I find difficulty, but at the same time, there is some hidden gems in there as well. So I'm not going to say that there's nothing there. There's some really good things there. It's just I find a lot harder.
Fair enough. Yeah, I do agree with that. Like the lower the time frame, the worse the results. Even though it's like the industry in general, publicly, everyone tells you to trade the 1 second time frame or the 1 minute. But then if you ask for a track record, you never see one. So that
Yeah,
already gives you the answer we are looking for, right? We do trust in the data.
yeah.
Um, Cool. So that's your process. I think that's very beneficial for people to know how to develop that strategy, where to find strategies. How you're building it is, of course, through no coding. People know that from our channel.
Yeah.
Um, One more thing, last thing on strategy, is how do you backtest? How much years do you backtest and all of that? What's your backtesting approach?
Yeah, so again, this would differ depending on the time frame that I'm using. If I'm going for like a daily time frame, I will test it for like the maximum data period that we have. And I think with the data that you provide goes back to what is it like 2004, 2003, something like that?
Yeah, depending
Yeah.
on the pair, but yeah,
So I'll test if it's like a daily time frame like strategy, I'll test all the way back to then because at the end of the day you get less trades, so you want to see that it works on that larger sample size. If I was trading like a 1 hour, I'm more interested in like the later years, maybe like 2015, 2016 onwards. But again, it's just about testing as much data as possible, because the more data that you test on, the more that you get to see in different market regimes how your strategy will perform.
fair enough. Yeah, cool. That's a nice approach to have. So let's focus a little bit on your journey. How was it like to start building your own strategies? How did you learn that as quickly as possible? And did you have a lot of obstacles there?
I mean, to begin with, starting anything new is always going to be challenging. So you've just got to knuckle down and really give it your all. But within the community that you've provided, there's a lot of people that are like-minded that are all helping each other. You've got lots of education on, how to build some of these systems very fast, what to do, what not to do, what to do, and from it can be a pretty straightforward process. You just got to appreciate that it's going to take time, but it's still going to be quicker than manually backtesting any strategy.
And that's yeah, that's true. Cool. So at the start, if you still remember like how you got started, it was of course pretty overwhelming to change your manual idea of the markets and how you approach the markets and really take a step to change. What made you change?
What made me change is just, when I was looking at, algo trading, I was like, this would be like when I was trading manually, I thought this would be great if I could just automate it because at the end of the day, I could sleep more to begin with, like in the, because obviously I was getting up at all hours. And yeah, even when I was going on like holidays and stuff like that, I would need to be at the charts and like, I'd miss out on things to do potentially. So that's one of the main things that drove me towards algo trading, having more freedom as such, but also being able to take advantage of the markets because at the end of the day, it's what I love doing. But that's mainly what drove me towards the algo trading, and it doesn't matter what obstacles there was going to be in the way, I was going to do it. I mean, some of the obstacles that I've had is probably at the early stages, going too quick to live with certain strategies and then instantly just losing money. I think there was like one strategy at the start. I think it was my second strategy I ever developed. I was like, oh, this looks great. It's the best testing ever. It was just a little bit maybe too good to true. Maybe I completely over optimized at the start, which is one of the biggest obstacles to begin with. Not keeping it
Yeah.
simple enough, adding too many parameters. And like instantly, first month was like 10% drawdown. I was like, okay, I've got to cut this because
What?
yeah,
Yeah.
it was just crazy. Like I know 10% is not that bad, but like it was just, it hit max drawdown within a month, and like there was only like one winning trade and like 30 losses. I was like, nah, this can't be true. And
Yeah.
from there, you learn quite a lot, obviously, because you go back to the drawing board and like, right, okay, what did I do wrong? And go back to what are the steps that you should do, because sometimes you can be, especially when you like go from manual to automation, you can kind of overlook certain things like, okay, in hindsight, that won't happen. And it does because in automated trading, it takes everything. There's no hiding, essentially.
True. True. So regarding to overcome those obstacles? Was it just you did that by learning what we share, or was it more like seeing what the other people in the community do, or is it like support from people, or was it just your own experience? Like, okay, this is maybe not the way to go.
I thought it was a mixture of all of them, to be honest, because at the end of the day, you can go back to the drawing board, look at like what you and the guys teach, as well as speaking to other traders within the community as well. You can say, okay, have you had this problem before? And with a lot more newer people coming into the community now, it's good because they've got a lot more experienced people that can, share the things that we went wrong with. Obviously, you as well. We've had the messages back and forth before, and I've asked questions, and they've helped massively as well. So just a mixture of all of it. You just got to make sure you put yourself out there within it. Ask as many questions as you can, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to get to the same goal.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to say it. If you, how long have you been in doing like algo trading now? 2 years
No, I think it was, what was that?
or
Maybe
even
like
longer?
just under three, just under three.
Okay,
I think
cool.
it was like the maybe September 2022.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm asking you that because I often thought about if I go back to the day I was introduced to algo trading, but also back to the day like 10 years ago when I found my passion for the markets and trading. If you could go back to maybe this like 3 years ago when you started to think about algo trading, or go back all the way till when you started investing and trading, what would you tell your old self to do? Uh, what are the steps to take if you can get the time back?
Ah, I wish I started it earlier, to be honest. Like, at the end of the day, I knew about it, but I just thought initially it was too complex. So I always put it off, which I think a lot of people do. So I would tell myself when I was younger, like, you should have done it earlier. Just take a leap of faith that, there is things out there that help you and you can get to that stage quicker as long as you just put in the time. I mean, there's no sort of magic to it. I mean, it's that.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I have the same answer to my old self. Like, I wish I started earlier. Imagine how many strategies I would have created then. There are, of course, 1,000 ways to monetize this because we built so many strategies. You can do whatever with them, what you want. You, like you say, you do have a lot of profitable strategies running that you are just running on demo because it doesn't really fit in your portfolio right now. But you can
Yeah.
still sell those strategies, right? You can lease them out. People
Yeah,
want
of
that.
course
It's
you can.
still a lot of value. Some people in our community want to start another community based on the strategies they have.
Yeah.
Um, Before we hopped on this call, I also asked you, like, do you want to have a major impact in the industry regarding teaching or sharing your journey or helping people, or are you more like at the stage now that you're just focused on scaling yourself, building that, and then feeling ready to take maybe that next step later on? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm focused on scaling. But at the end of the day, I kind of want to do both, but right now I'm focused on scaling, and later down the line, I will hopefully try and give back to people. At the end of the day, that's exactly what you've done. You've gave back from your learnings, and
Hmm.
at a later time, I do want to sort of give back, maybe like share some of the strategies that I use in live and help other people get to the same stage that I'm at right now, and then hopefully in future even bigger.
Yeah, exactly. So how can people find you? Do you have like uh, do we send them to your Darwin extract record, or do we where do you want to be found? And if someone is listening or watching this and has some questions, of course, everyone in the community can direct message you, and
Yeah.
people probably will do that. But also for the rest of the world seeing this, maybe from a year from now, do you have a place where they can find you?
Yeah, so I've got a website that people can directly like email me from, and from there you'll find me on Instagram and other social medias. But if you want to look at my portfolio, then you can visit my Darwin, which is IME on Darwin X.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll link everything in the description below. Do you have anything else you want to share, or can we wrap this up?
Yeah, I think we could just wrap it up here.
Hey, great, mate. Thank you for being here, and
No
we
worries.
keep in
Thanks for having me.
contact.